Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see many faces, familiar faces from yesterday. I think we have some students who will be logging in shortly, so stay tuned for that. My name is Sarah Hendrick, and I am the Director of Alumni Engagement here at CSUB. It's nice to see everyone, even if it is virtually over Zoom. Excited that we can bring the events to you via Zoom this year. And that we're doing an individual one with each academic school and our Antelope Valley campus this year. So this is our 7th annual and first virtual Alumni Rising Runner Award Ceremony and Discussion Panel. For those of you who are new to this event, we created this homecoming event so that recent alumni, those that graduated within the last 10 years, who are already excelling in their careers, can come back and share their secrets of success with students. Who better for students to learn from than people who were in their shoes just a few short years ago? I want to say a special thank you and shout out to Dr. Wallace, who's here. He's the Vice President for Student Affairs. He helped us create this event. Dr. Wallace, I can't believe it's been 7 years already, and this year we're doing Homecoming at Home. So just to tell you a little bit about the event and how we choose the Rising Runners each year. Each dean of CSUB's 4 academic schools, as well as the dean of CSUB Antelope Valley, chooses an Alumni Rising Runner in consultation with their faculty. Today's is our 2nd Alumni Rising Runner event of this Homecoming at Home week. Over the next 3 days, we will honor and hear from the Rising Runners from the schools of Business and Public Administration, Natural Sciences, Math and Engineering, and Social Sciences and Education. And I'd like to invite all of you to attend those events as well. So now I have the pleasure of introducing Bob Frakes. He is the Dean of the School of Arts and Humanities. Dr. Frakes, the Zoom screen is yours.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm happy to take part in this event today. The Rising Runner is a great program to recognize a recent outstanding graduate from the schools of the university. To determine the winner from each school, the dean solicits nominations from the faculty, and then the Council of Department Chairs votes on the nominations. This year's winning nomination came from Professor Mustafa Dada in the History Department. Professor Dada is a full professor in the History Department, an award-winning scholar, and has taught at CSUB for over 10 years. I now hand the Zoom screen over to Professor Dada to introduce this year's winner of the Rising Runner Award from the School of Arts and Humanities.
Well, thank you, Dean Frakes. I appreciate that little introduction. It eases me into the greatest pleasure I have in my entire professional life for the last 10 years at CSUB to tell you a little bit more about Jamal Wright, who is the rising runner that we celebrate. I'll have you know that he's a triple CSU alum who now teaches a swath of courses at Bakersfield College. He was chosen specifically to teach a community college level because that's where most young people, are and begin their career. And so in many respects, he is essentially trying to give back to society, from whence he came. Jamal is a first-generation college graduate who earned his first history degree as an associate degree, and from Bakersfield College in 2014. Then he transferred to CSUB and earned his bachelor's degree in history in 2015, mercifully also mentored by me. And I was very fortunate to do so, with a master's degree in history in 2017. And I might add, and within 3 short years, clinched a doctorate in educational leadership. Compared to him, I was a slowpoke. I took 6 years. Just reading that simply is exhausting, but nevertheless, I am basking in his glory. At CSUB, Jamal chronicled 2 predominantly African-American high school walkouts in Los Angeles in '68. He tracked down and interviewed the leaders of those walkouts and who were protesting discriminatory practices and demanding African-American courses. And in that process, he taught me quite a few things. For his doctorate, Jamal studied how to help African-American and Latino students succeed in community college. In California, just 1/3 of Black students who enroll end up earning their AAs. Advice to students: get experience while you are in school, because without it, it's going to be hard to get the job. Jamal got his experience through internships. We can talk about that, when deemed appropriate. Jamal has also worked with students at the wonderful academy, earning both high school and college, through a dual enrollment program, and with community correctional facility inmates working to get their degrees while incarcerated. The Alumni Association is indeed lucky to have Jamal as part of the Runner alumni family. It will be sending him a plaque and other tokens of congratulations for being named an Alumni Rising Runner. Jamal, would you be kind enough to tell us a word or two about your achievements and today?
First off, I just have to say thank you, Professor Dada, for nominating me, for teaching me, for guiding me. There's a list of individuals that I would have to say thank you to. First and foremost, as well, my wife for inspiring me and believing in me, as well as my mother and my father, Rita and Brian Wright, and then another mentor who really took me under their wings, very similar to Professor Dada, Elizabeth Crombeck. And so I want to show my appreciation for all these individuals and how, as I stated before, how they guided me and they believed in me and they trained me. And so thank you so much. And with that, as Professor Dada said, starting at BC and then transferring over to CSUB, where I was able to get my BA. From there, I was able to get my master's and then eventually receive my doctorate in education so that I could really give back to the community.
Thank you, Jamal, and congratulations again. And congratulations for both the Rising Runner Award and for your tenured position at California Community College, Bakersfield College, which is a fantastic job. I think I mentioned to you before, that's a career my father had, teaching at a community college, California, and he did well with it. And I hope all our students can aspire to something like that. So now we're going to move to the most fun part of the program today, the Q&A session, where audience members can learn from Jamal's experience. We have some prepared questions and then can take student and other audience questions also. I'm going to warn people that this is the first time I've run a Q&A via Zoom, so any problems are on me, not on any of the other staff. So if you have a question, please raise your virtual hand and we will have you unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can send them through the chat to Mary Coder, that's M-E-R-R-Y if you're typing into the chat, and she will forward it to me. So while we're waiting for some to appear, I'll ask the first prepared question. Right? And that is, what is one thing you would tell your former student self when you were transitioning from school to career?
Thinking about that question, what I would tell myself is, you belong here. And what I mean by that is, I remember graduating, I was excited. I was applying to different positions, faculty positions, and I was sitting in the waiting room and there would be doubts that would creep into my mind. I would think, man, this individual next to me, they have 5 years of experience. Or this individual next to me, this is where they're coming from, or this might be what's on their resume. And so again, I would have those doubts and I would tell myself to have confidence. I am prepared. I prepared myself. I had individuals invest in training, train me. And so I would go back and I would tell Jamal from 2014 or 2016 that you belong in those interviews. Have confidence. You are successful. You can accomplish this. You can attain your goals. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I would tell myself is that I belong there and to have confidence. In fact, if I'm in the interview session or kind of component of the process, then obviously they like me. And so again, just telling myself to have confidence.
Great, that's great. Okay. Here's one. A lot of students are trying to figure out a career path after graduation. How did you know this was the career for you?
So there are 3 different time periods in which I really understood this is the career for me. The first one is I remember sitting in my upper division class and I was listening to my professors like Professor Dada, and I felt like I was at a movie theater. I didn't feel as though I was doing work. I felt as though I was connecting to the information. I had a passion for it. Now, I don't want to make it seem as though it wasn't work because when I had to write the research papers or go to the library, I definitely felt and understood I was at school. But again, just sitting in those classes and absorbing the knowledge and absorbing the information, it really made me understand that this is what I want to do. That was the first time period which I really understood history is the subject that I want to teach. And then in addition to that, I remember going out to LA and interviewing individuals and calling individuals on the phone, and they say, no, I don't want to interview, or having to mine through the libraries to find these interviews or find these newspaper clippings and conducting these interviews. And I remember how accomplished I felt after, realizing that these stories were untold, but because of me, they're here. I was able to transcribe them. And so feeling that accomplishment of giving back to the community and providing a voice to individuals who really didn't have a voice, that's when I also felt, you know what, this is my calling. And then finally, I remember teaching at BC and I felt so passionate about it. And I remember one day I got home and my wife said, how was work? And I said, oh yeah, I did go to work today. I completely forgot that what I was doing was work. Because again, I just realized that I love helping students. I love giving back to students. And as I will talk about throughout this Q&A session, I really had a hard time at the community college and it took me a few years. But once I had those mentors and individuals to help me,
It looks like Jamal might be having some internet issues, so maybe
I
we'll
was
give him a minute to
able to
pop back in.
Are you guys not able to hear me?
We can hear you now. You kind of stuck for a moment.
Okay, sorry about that. So to conclude, just having those 3 different time frames, hopefully you're able to hear, but if not, I talked about sitting in the classroom and then the fulfillment I received from conducting the oral history interviews. And then lastly, being able to help students at BC are all things that really helped me to understand my calling was teaching.
That's great. And all aspects of that answer are fantastic. You know, it actually reminded me of another CSUB interview that was earlier in the year was when Sir Richard Branson, we had speaking, and I think one of his famous quotes is, if you find something you love, you're never working a day in your live, right? And that's what I'm kind of hearing. But with a sense of accomplishment, that's really just fantastic also. Let's see what I have here. Okay, here's a question. This is always this is a friendly forum and a useful one for everyone. It's the kind of question when you get in a job interview is always a difficult one. That is, what career mistakes have you made that taught you the best lessons?
And so I'll get on this a little bit more, but I remember when I started my master's program, I said, I don't want to leave with just a degree. I want experience and I want field experience as well. And so I was able to get a teaching practicum with Professor Dada, and I learned a lot from that. But in addition, I said, I want an internship. And so I applied to Long Beach City College. They have an internship there, and I got accepted. And I applied to Glendale College, and then I got accepted there. And so on Monday and Wednesday, I drove from Bakersfield at 3 a.m. To Long Beach City College, and I taught there. I was in an internship there. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, I would drive down to Glendale at 3 a.m. And do an internship there. And then the professor at Long Beach City said, well, can you do 3 more of my classes and then do a study session? I said, no problem. This is great. I can put this on my CV. But the problem I realized is that I expanded myself. I spread myself out too thin, and I wasn't able to be successful in every area. And so if I were to give advice, or the mistake I made early on in my career, it is not to spread myself out too thin, to really learn your limit, learn your capacity, what you're able to do, and also learn what you can't do. So make sure that what you're focusing on in the project that you have, that you're giving it your best, that you're not doing so many things that you're giving 30% here or 20% here or 10% here. So I wish I would have went back and said, this is great, I have 2 internships, but let me just focus on one. It's probably not the best idea to drive to LA Monday through Friday, and waking up at 3 a.m. and getting home at 4 or 5, and then having my master classes at night. So again, I would tell myself, don't spread myself out. Make sure that if I'm doing something, I understand that I can give it 100%. And if I can't give it the quality it deserves, then to hold off and maybe do it later.
That's excellent advice, and one only comes through experience, I think. Okay, we got some questions. Let me think. I guess I should do them in the order that I'm getting them. So that first we have one in the chat from Victor Martin, who's Vice President of Advancement. And he asks, what does it mean to you to be an alumnus of CSUB and now as a rising runner who's an example for students to follow? How do you plan to maintain a strong connection with your alma mater?
It means a lot to me to be alumni of CSUB, especially because when I look at the goals and objectives of CSUB and really understanding the community that it serves and realizing that many of the students at CSUB are first-generation college students. They're the first in their family to go to college. And not just that, many of these students are either work in the fields or they work full-time and they go to school. And that was me 10 years ago. I actually worked in the oil fields and went to BC at night. And so I remember waking up at 3 a.m., going to work, getting off at 5 p.m., and then going home and taking a shower, and then going right to class. And so I feel a strong connection to CSUB and wanting to give back. And that's why I served in the wonderful academy and taught dual enrollment or the prisons and taught there, because again, I understand what many of these students are going through. And I want to make sure that they can look at someone and say, you know what, I can relate to their story. If Jamal is able to achieve his goals, then I'm able to do it as well. And so my goal and my hope is not just to end here, but to constantly give back, to be involved on campus, to be involved in mentoring programs. I remember when I was working on my master's, going back to spreading myself out a little bit too thin, in addition to those internship programs, there's a peer mentor program at CSUB. And I participated in that, and I was able to mentor incoming freshmen at CSUB. And so making sure that I give back in those ways, because again, this is the community that I'm a part of. This is the community students are in very similar circumstances as I was in. And I want to make sure that they can one day become a rising runner, or they can one day come back to CSUB and they can give their testimony and inspire other students.
Great, thanks. We have a live question from Markel Quarles, and if somebody can unmute him, there we go. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Jamal. Congratulations again, and you are indeed just an inspiration. And so I had a question for you in regards to, as you think back about your experience as a student. As I look on the call, I see a lot of faculty and staff and leaders on our campus. What advice would you give to us in terms of how we can best support and serve students in our roles?
What I would say is tell students that you believe in them. And I know that might seem small, but Professor Dada, I would say, is one of the first, even through high school, middle school, and elementary, was one of the first individuals that said I should go and get my PhD or go and get my doctorate degree. And I never even thought about doing that. Again, I'm a first generation college student. In my mindset, getting the BA, getting your degree, that's the end all be all. That means I've gone further than anyone else I know. But believing in them and telling them that you can do this, you can go on and get your master's, you can go on and get your doctorate, you can go on and if you want to become a teacher, have you thought about becoming a principal? Have you thought about doing this? And that means a lot to many students. Again, as I was growing up, I didn't believe that I could do it, or I had a lot of doubts, as I stated before, going into those interviews and feeling as though I'm not supposed to be here, I don't belong. And so when I heard that from Professor Dada saying, Jamal, you should apply for this, it kind of blew my mind thinking, hold on, I can't do that. And that's why I would have told my former self, you belong here. Because in fact, many of these students, they don't feel like they belong here. And studies and statistics show that. They don't feel as though, when they look around, they feel as though, wow, I can't believe I'm at CSUB. I remember the first day when I walked on to CSUB, and I remember the first class, it was a Professor Rodriguez, and it was mind-blowing for me because I never thought I could get to CSUB. And so just getting there, I looked around and I was smiling and I sat in my class. I felt like I was a first grader all over again, just because I made it. And so telling these students these things, it means a lot. And it goes back to my other mentor, Beth Crombeck, when I was a mentee at Glendale College, and her telling me to go on to get my degree, or her telling me I did a great job, or her telling me, Jamal, you should lecture today. And feeling like, hold on, you think I should lecture a class? Yeah, Jamal, you're a great lecturer. That gave me confidence, that built me up. And so even though we might think that that's small, that means a lot to these students to hear that they're capable, that they're competent, and that they can be successful.
That's great. That's great. We got a question from Dr. Wallace, who's the Vice President of Student Affairs. With the many obstacles and challenges that young men of color face in our country, what keeps you motivated to not give up on your dreams and aspirations?
Being a history professor, there's a poem by Langston Hughes, and it's entitled Mother to Son. And the poem goes, life has not been a crystal stairs. It talks about how the mother is inspiring her son to keep climbing the stairs, even though the stairs has thorns and it has tacks, to keep climbing. And what inspires me is when I think about my parents and what they had to overcome and what they did so that I can be in a safe environment, what they did so that I can, go to a good school. It inspires me to continue. It inspires me to, and motivates me to keep going. And so one, I think it's my parents and wanting to kind of honor their determination and their sacrifice. But the second one is, I understand that there are a lot of students out there who need help, and they need an inspiration and they need guidance. I remember being a substitute teacher at a middle school, and I walked into class and they said, wow, there's a Black teacher. And many of these students were shocked because they've never seen a Black teacher before. And I've actually had that happen a few times. And just to realize that many of these individuals, they don't have individuals to look up to. And so that motivates me to want to help these individuals, and realizing that if I didn't have a Professor Dodd, or if I didn't have a Maria or my mom or Elizabeth Crombeck in my life, I would not be successful. And so I feel an obligation to help those individuals because so much has been invested in me.
That's great. Thank you. We have another question in the chat from Randy Schultz. What are some of the lessons you learned from being a mentor?
It's very interesting that you say that, because sometimes I feel as though now that I have my career, I can forget where I came from. And what I mean is I forget the hardships that students had to go through. And it really reminds me and it refreshes my drive and my motivation. So I think the biggest thing that I learned as a mentor is compassion and understanding for what students go through. And I think that's why many individuals should be mentors, especially at CSUB or even BC, to really understand what these students are going through. I remember at times not having a place to study. I remember at times not having a backpack. I remember at times we were looking for food or having to go to the church to get food. But the thing is, I become detached from those things. I forget about what the experiences are like for individuals who really have to go through these things. And so I think as a mentor, it really reminds me how hard and challenging the lives of these students are. And it really gives me more compassion and more desire to help individuals.
Great, thanks for that. Yeah, I have one here. When you have gone after jobs, how did you set yourself apart from the competition?
Great question. I'm actually eager to answer this question. As I stated before, when I was getting my master's, my goal again was not just to get my master's. I understood that there was competition. So as I stated before, I wanted to have a competitive CV. I wanted to have a competitive resume. So as a result, I was able to participate in internships at Glendale College. I was able to participate in internships at Long Beach City College, and also do teaching practicums at CSUB. And so I think that is the goal. And I think sometimes students, again, because they're so excited about getting their degree and being a first generation college student, the degree is the end goal, the degree is the finish line. But what I tell my students is, you have to set yourself apart while you're in college. You have to go after those internships. You want to graduate with that degree, but also that experience, so that when you do graduate, you have that degree and you have that experience so that you can be successful. So in my case, it was having that experience in teaching at CSUB, teaching at Long Beach City College, in addition to teaching at Glendale College, and conducting oral interviews, so that I could say that not only do I teach history, but I was actually able to go into the field and produce quality results.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Got a question in the chat from Sarah Hendrick. You've been teaching for a year now during the time of COVID. What are the challenges and opportunities you and your students have experienced this last year?
Okay, so I can answer that. I could take an hour to go over that. So some of the challenges that I face, again, being at Bakersfield College, being in Kern County, you have a lot of students who are first generation. And so I remember teaching during the summer, and I would see a student in their garage. And again, this is Bakersfield, 110, 115 degrees. And so these are the challenges that students are going through. Or I remember teaching and a student being in their car. I'm pretty sure, and I talked to the student trying to get signal from a store or another location. So again, these are the challenges that a lot of our students are facing. And so the way that I seek to overcome this is making sure that I'm more prepared than usual. And what I mean by that is taking the winter break and making sure that I record all my lectures, make sure I upload all my materials, so that all of the information is already uploaded to Canvas, so that I can help them, so they have access to this. And so that's the biggest way that I try to make sure to help students, is having this information for them so that it's as less confusing as possible.
That's great. Okay, I have a question here. What are the good job opportunities in your field right now?
So if you refer to teaching, you can teach, from elementary, you can teach high school, you can teach middle school. And with that, I know that Bakersfield has one of the largest high school districts in California. So I would say there are a lot of opportunities to teach. And also what I would suggest students do is that when you are working on your teaching credentials, be a substitute teacher. The great thing about that is you get experience, but not only that, it increases your networking. And so you get to know different teachers, you get to know principals, you get to know these individuals. And so when you apply for a job, you might actually know the individuals who are interviewing. And so there are opportunities out there in the educational field as well as teaching. You just have to make sure that you broaden your network and you take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. Unfortunately, due to COVID, they are limited. But what I still tell my students is that the opportunities are out there. You have to find them. As I stated before, there was no faculty internship in Bakersfield. And so I could have easily said, okay, there's no internship. I'm doing a teaching practicum. I'm good to go. But instead I said, okay, let me think outside the box. Let me look at LA. Let me look at Long Beach, or let me look at Glendale. And so again, your options may be limited, but you still have options out there. You just have to take the initiative and try to find them. And if you can't, talk to your faculty, talk to your professors, and get the help.
That's very good advice. We have a question in the chat from Ellie Furgon. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Are there any career goals you're still working towards?
So what I want to do is, after kind of the pandemic ends or declines, what I want to do is I interviewed the individuals for the 1968 walkout. And from that, I found another individual who really contributed to African-American high school or African-American education. And so she passed away, but I've already started to archive the newspapers about her. She conducted walkouts in elementary schools and middle schools. And so I'm collecting these newspapers, and I want to interview the individuals that know her. And I want to produce an article on this individual that I'm starting to collect the information for. And in addition to that, I want to continue to participate in mentoring programs at Bakersfield College, contributing in those programs as well. Again, making sure that I'm there, boots on the ground, helping students to make sure that they're successful and they're progressing through the community college, going to see CSUB or attaining their goal.
That sounds like a great project. I got another question in the chat from Ara Bryan. Let's see. According to some sources, African-American males make up only 2% of the teacher workforce. Considering the positive impact they, meaning you, can make, how do you feel more students can be inspired to enter this career path to help make a difference for students? And thank you for making a difference.
Mm-hmm. Again, I think it goes back to teachers and professors building those relationships with students. In my bio, I talk about I went to over 10 different schools from elementary to high school, probably 12 or 13 different schools. And as I stated before, I maybe can pick out one or two teachers who I really felt invested in me. Because typically I would enter a school halfway through the semester and probably leave, the other half of the semester. I really felt like I didn't have any connections with my teachers in high school, middle school, or elementary. Or when I did well on the exam, it was kind of just giving it to me back. But I think the way that you build it is building those relationships and inspiring individuals. Sometimes people don't know that they enjoy something until you kind of hint or suggest it. And so saying, have you thought about being a teacher? You're really good at conveying information. You're really good at helping individuals learn. And again, it sounds so simple, but many of these students, they were never told this before. They can't even conceptualize becoming a teacher because again, they've never thought about it. They've never seen anyone in their family. They haven't seen anyone that looks like them do this. And so I think it's up to faculty, it's up to teachers to really inspire individuals and really tell them they belong. Again, going back to that, telling them they belong, they can do it. Have confidence in yourself.
Great, thanks. Here's a question. What is the biggest risk you've taken in your career and how did it work out?
I would say the biggest risk was actually going to get my doctorate in education. And the reason I say that is I was an adjunct when I decided to apply. I was working at Glendale College and Bakersfield College. And what that would require is actually me teaching fewer classes at Glendale College. And it would also kind of have me tinker with my lifestyle a little bit, again, having to dedicate Saturdays to participate in this program. And so it was a major risk that I had to take, but I am so grateful that I participate in the program because it taught me teaching philosophies. It taught me different theories that I was able to take from those books and those classes and really apply. And so again, because of COVID and pandemic and we're not meeting face to face, I'm eager for us to get back on campus so that I can really implement a lot of what I learned from that program to my classes, creating programs for different underrepresented groups.
Right. Yeah, it was an investment that paying off and will continue to pay off for a cost benefit analysis for the rest of your life. That's great. I have what I've been told is a final question from Christine Bedell. What is the most interesting thing you've learned from your research?
Well, I jumped into this again. If you're not familiar, in 1968, you had over, I would say 10 or 15 prominent Latino high schools that walked out due to discriminatory practices. And there were two predominantly African-American high schools that walked out as well, but because they were kind of overshadowed by the other walkouts, there's no movie about them. The movie that was filmed about the Latino walkouts, they don't really mention it. And so I was able to kind of find these individuals. I remember Professor Dada helped me. I actually went to classmates.com and just emailed everyone from that college, trying to track down these individuals, going through the newspapers. And so what I learned is that some of the same issues that individuals are facing and faced in 1968 are what students are facing today. But on a positive note, it was really inspiring to see the impact, see that many individuals from that walkout, they went on to become lawyers. They went on to become faculty members. And seeing from that walkout how the police got involved on campus and they created a police youth coalition. And we see that some of the individuals were able to join the police cadets, and they were able to hire more African-American teachers, and they created a Swahili course. And so seeing the impact of this nonviolent protest and seeing how it benefited the students during that period. And so that's the biggest thing that I took away.
Great, great. Well, I think this has been a fantastic question and answer session. And I thank you and appreciate, I think we all appreciate your answers to the questions. And I really think it's kind of priceless. I'm glad we're recording it, just like you're recording all your lectures in this age of COVID. Hopefully some other students can access this later as well, because this is just fantastic. Insight into your career for all of us, but as well as advice that we can pass on to others as well, so that the ripple effect will keep going from this. CSUB President Leslie loves the Alumni Rising Runner program. Unfortunately, she can't be with us today, so we do have a few words from her to share. I'll hand that over.
Alumni and friends, and welcome home, runners. Though we cannot be in the same place today as we celebrate 5 outstanding rising runners, make no mistake, we are together. For CSUB is not just a physical location. CSUB is a feeling. CSUB is family. CSUB is connection. CSUB is a sense of belonging. CSUB is home. As Maya Angelou once said, the ache for home lives in all of us. At CSUB, we focus on helping our students use their gifts and talents to build a road to their future, which will take them out into the world to serve their families, neighbors, and communities. But just as that road leads them away from the university, it also leads our alumni back. This week, we celebrate that return in spirit, if not in body. And we welcome our runners back into the warm embrace of our extended family. The 5 amazing alumni we are celebrating this week are called Rising Runners for a reason. They are climbing a ladder of success, and as they climb, they lift others along with them. Each school will celebrate its own Rising Runner at separate occasions this week. But I want to recognize each of our Rising Runners before the entire CSUB community. The Antelope Valley campus recognizes Rising Runner SARINA Muhammad, who received her Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Management in 2015 and Master of Business Administration in 2017. SARINA is giving back by serving as a business service representative for Goodwill, Southern California. The School of Arts and Humanities recognizes Rising Runner Dr. Jamal Wright, who earned his Bachelor of Arts in History in 2015, Master of Arts in History in 2017, and Doctorate in Educational Leadership in 2020. Dr. Wright is an Associate Professor of History at Bakersfield College. The School of Business and Public Administration recognizes Rising Runner BAILEE Cook, who received her Bachelor of Science in Business Administration in 2018. BAILEE is a subcontract specialist for Northrop Grumman. The School of Natural Sciences, Mathematics, and Engineering recognizes Rising Runner Dr. Nick Toothman, who earned his Bachelor of Science in Computer Science in 2010. Nick went on to earn his Doctorate in Computer Science from UC Davis in 2020. Dr. Toothman is an assistant professor right here at CSUB. The School of Social Sciences and Education recognizes Rising Runner Alex Dominguez, who earned a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science in 2017. Alex received his Juris Doctorate from the University of Mississippi Law School in 2020 and is an associate attorney here in Bakersfield for Klein, DiNatelli, and Goldner. Thank you, Rising Runners, for sharing your knowledge, your talents, and your light with the communities you serve. And a special note of gratitude to the faculty and staff who helped you discover the magic within you. Here's to you, runners, and here's to never forgetting your way back home. Congratulations.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Thank you for your patience. You know, this is just what happens when you're live on Zoom. But so glad that we are recording this video. Like Dean Frakes mentioned, this will be a great resource for students to be able to access after today's event. I just want to say a special thank you to you, Dr. Wright. Thank you for the work that you do, for the work that you will continue to do. I would love to recruit you as an alumni mentor if you are not already part of our Runner Alumni Mentor Program, but just thanks for being a role model for all of our current students. And congratulations again to you for being this year's Arts and Humanities Rising Runner. Can we all give Dr. Wright a virtual round of applause?
Thank you.
And it's just great to get to know some of our rising young alumni better and to be able to connect them with students who can benefit from their insights. So we definitely will share this recording with everyone. And I ask any faculty or staff on the call today, if you can please make sure to get this out to any students in your classes or who you are in touch with. We definitely want to get some of our future educators to watch Dr. Wright's advice and experiences and his insights. We want to share those with students. Just a reminder that there are 3 more Alumni Rising Runner events this week. Our additional Alumni Rising Runners include a business professional, a professor at CSUB, as you just heard President Zalesny mention, and a young lawyer who has also worked in local politics. Also, he is a former ASI president, so you definitely don't want to miss the rest of our Rising Runner events this week. You can check out the schedule and register for any of the other Rising Runner events on the same homecoming site where you registered to sign up for today's event. There's a registration link on the alumni website, which is csub.edu/alumni. There are also a number of other homecoming events for students this week. There are men's basketball games and other athletic events, and you can visit csub.edu/homecoming to find out what other exciting programs we have during homecoming at home this week. So again, thank you all so much for being here and have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye.